Hey, today is Monday, January the 23rd, and it's great to see you again. Did you watch the football games this weekend? There were some really good ones. There were some blowouts as the Eagles took it to the Giants. But the one game outside of the Chiefs game that really caught my attention was the San Francisco 49ers, and one player in particular, Brock Purdy, the old quarterback from Iowa State who was drafted in the very last round of the NFL draft this last April. Not only that, he was the very, very last pick in all of the draft, pick number 262. There's actually a title for being the very last player selected. They call him Mr. Irrelevant. Yes, you heard that right. Mr. Irrelevant. And there's a production behind it now where they'll come out with a jersey with the number 262 on it, and on the back of it, they have irrelevant on the back of it instead of the last player's name. And the guys that really embrace it are the guys that I love because, these are great football players. You have to be really good to get drafted into the National Football League. However, to think that Mr. Irrelevant, the very last pick in all of the draft in his rookie season, would be capable of leading his team to the NFC Championship game is almost unthinkable. This guy, Brock Purdy's won 8 straight games. Many people think they have a very decent chance to beat the Eagles to make it to the Super Bowl. And I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams could have ever imagined that this player, maybe even would have still been on the roster at the end of the season, let alone starting quarterback and, maybe even fashioning for himself a future role as a really good quarterback. My youngest son, Benny, said to me yesterday, "Dad, he's the new Tom Brady." And I smiled and I said, I don't know if I believe that. There's only one Tom Brady. But, Tom Brady was also a very late draft pick. And there's a part of me that kind of pulls for a guy like that because it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of determination. It takes a lot of just hard work and not giving up on yourself. And it's a really neat story as we come to the end of the NFL season. It reminds me of how God oftentimes uses people to do the things that God wants done in this world, and God will often choose the type of person that the rest of the world wants to cast aside, that the rest of the world thinks is irrelevant, that the rest of the world thinks nothing good can come out of that person, that the rest of the world, wouldn't really give much of a second look to. As I think back to all the people in the Bible, God does this time and time again. The Mr. Irrelevant, God chooses to do the things that God needs to get done in this world. So just a few examples. The Mr. Irrelevance in the Bible. Think about Abraham. Abraham and Sarah, both of these people are extremely old, and yet God uses them to start the seeds that will become the great nation of Israel. Or I think of Moses, the one person that God chooses to free his people. Moses had a speech impediment. He wasn't a good talker, and yet God chose him. God used him. Or I think of Rahab and the walls of Jericho. Rahab, she was a prostitute, and Rahab is the one who helps the spies come in to scout out the city. God uses Rahab. Think about, the rest of the world would think as irrelevant. Or Jeremiah, the great prophets in the Old Testament. Jeremiah was extremely young. In fact, we think he was probably a teenager. I think of Mr. Irrelevant, a teenager God uses. Or Naomi and Ruth. Naomi was a widower, and yet Naomi is there for Ruth. God uses Naomi to work out God's good purposes. Lastly, I think of Peter. Peter is the one that Jesus Christ will choose personally to build the church, to further the faith, to proclaim the gospel far and wide. And Peter denies Jesus not once, not twice, but 3 times. You read the Bible and you look at the world today, God is the type of God that chooses the people that he wants to lift up. God will work through people that the rest of the world thinks there's nothing good that can come from that person. And so when I think about my life, when I think about your life, I'm reminded that God needs us, that God needs all different types of people. And if the world sees you, however the world sees you, know that God needs you, that God needs you to do good things in this world. And so I pray as we kickstart a new week, I pray that God would use you. I pray that you would connect with God and the Holy Spirit to do those good things in your family, in your community, and your workplace, as you continue to strive to be Christ in this world, to be his hands, his feet, his compassion, his love, which our world so desperately needs. It's great to see you. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you again next Monday. God bless.